Well everyone, welcome to another edition of the Wandering Ukie Cheese Cafe. I keep saying how it feels like that the temperature is all over the place. Yesterday was starting to be about 19 degrees in the day and then eventually cooled down. Today, I only had a high of maybe 6 degrees at best, so you can definitely tell that fall's around the corner. And I'm also a week away from the time change where we move our clocks 1 hour back, so that means that it's going to be dark when I wake up, and it's going to be dark when 5 o'clock hits, possibly even earlier. That's the one downside with all these change of seasons and change of time is, you know, the lack of sunlight. But I guess it works out perfectly for today because it is going to be my Halloween episode today. Now, I had an idea for a good recipe that felt like it could have been perfect for a ghoul or something that's very spooky. Last year, I did the sweet and sour chicken thighs, and that had like a very red sauce, so I thought, ooh, blood. And this one's going to be even better. So before we get to that, I'm just going to give you one suggestion. Click that subscribe button below, put your notification bell to on. That way, if ever there's a new video that comes up, you're going to get a pop-up that it's ready to view. And of course, before you even continue on, I suggest giving a thumbs up because the more likes I get on the channel, the more that my videos are promoted across YouTube. So you're actually helping me out a lot more than you expected. Very funny. I don't know what's going on, but my nails are starting to turn a little bit black. The hell? It's almost like I'm starting to be a little bit possessed. Oh Lord. So, unlike last year I was afraid of being possessed by the mad clown, it seems like it's actually happening now. Fuck you, Ronald. Okay, I gotta get a concoction. Not a concoction, a concoction. I need an elixir. Okay, so I think I've got the perfect concoction to get rid of that possession I'm going to be dealing with. Holy water, sriracha sauce, or whatever spicy sauce, and honey jack. Let's see how this does, and hopefully it's effective. What do you mean I'll be sorry? Oh, come on. If it's happened last year, what are the odds of it happening again?
Said.
Well, history repeats itself yet again. That mixture, even though I thought it would be warding off of a possession, ended up making me turn into a ghoul slash rancipath slash whatever you want to call me. But you know what? It's appropriate for tonight, given the fact that it is Halloween and I want to look appropriate for my menu. And also trying to recover from a cough. You know, you get sick in the beginning of the week. You think you recover, but then the cough lingers on. Such is life too. Oh yeah, you probably wonder what I'm drinking over here. Well, it's a perfectly themed Halloween one called, what's this called again? Monarch, and it's an English brown ale too. Feels appropriate because it has autumn colors here, but it's also got a melting candle of a skeleton, or actually a skull that's melting in place. So it's pretty awesome. And it's 5%, so it's a pretty good percentage. And this one is actually from the Gallicus brewer, which is part of a... I've had them before. You look at the cans, they're all based on Greek gods or some kind of variation of a Greek god. So it feels like it's appropriate, and I guess the skull's supposed to be godlike or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, this is good fuel for when I start my meal. So if you want to know what the menu is today, it's simple. Beef tartare. That's right, we're going to be hitting up the tartare again. If you've been following me for a while, you already know that I like to go get that when I'm out and about somewhere, because I always used to say, it's a dish I don't see myself ever making at home on my own. That's why I like to treat myself at a restaurant. And if you want to go see one of those ventures, I'm going to put a car in the top right corner where you can watch the normal me do a round downtown and go into Les Enfants... oh crap. You could go to Les Enfants Terribles with me over on the 44th floor of Place de Marie. But the truth of the matter is that it's actually pretty simple to make at home, and it's not too much prep work to do. It's a small amount of it, and then you're good to go. Obviously, it's not something that everyone is going to like, because it's basically raw beef that you're eating dressed up. And if you're like me, your first exposure to that was probably that Mr. Bean episode where he orders it in a fancy restaurant, sees it's a raw steak that he got, all chopped up, and then he's hiding it everywhere in his table. Like, I think he put it in a napkin, probably in the butter bell. He even put it in the pockets of his waiter too, so that's how much he really wanted to get rid of it. Now, you do have to take some precautions with that, but when you do it properly, it can be very tender, tasty, and delectable. So we're gonna get started on that right now. So, whenever you're going to a restaurant and you want to get some beef tartare, usually they're going to be serving it with fries or maybe a salad on the side. So I figured I'd be doing the recipe, which is very classic, almost like what you would get at a bistro. In case you haven't watched my other episodes and you're wondering what exactly a bistro is, it's supposed to be a French style restaurant, which is more, let's say, informal as opposed to fancy, like you would see like all around. So you wouldn't have to worry about like $50, $60 meals. It's a bit more casual. And tartare is like one of those meals that is a staple of there. If you're looking for a good, like not too expensive French restaurant, I'd be very surprised if they do not carry any beef tartare whatsoever. So, what I have here is one russet potato around the size that you would use for baking a potato. It's typically what I do whenever I'm barbecuing, but because it's 6 degrees, possibly only 5, my barbecuing days are kind of numbered now. So I'll probably have to wait until next year. So here we are. Fries are all sliced up. And I've got them to maybe around 1/2-inch matchsticks, which is a little bit more thin than what I usually do. But I feel like I want to do something similar to what I get in restaurants. Next, I'm going to preheat this to 400 degrees, the perfect temperature to cook your potatoes. And yes, in case you're wondering, there is a sheen on here. I know I want to look like a ghoul, and this kind of kills the vibe, but I want to see what the hell I'm doing. Now, next thing to do is to get your stuff to cook it with. All right, so I'm going to keep it simple and use one aluminum pan with a little bit of parchment paper. Parchment paper is great for baking, for like meat, potatoes, anything that has fat on it, because it doesn't stick to this, and you give yourself a lot less cleanup to do when you're doing any cooking in the kitchen. Okay, I'll just put these on like that. Just like so, and then you're good. Now, you're gonna have to season this up, and luckily it's very straightforward too. Stuff that you most likely have already in your pantry. So salt, pepper, granulated onion, granulated garlic. Usually I like to cook with regular garlic, but Today I want to keep things simple and I don't want to think too hard about my baking. Okay, one last thing to kind of tie it all together. Plain old olive oil, one of the greatest inventions for the kitchen. Now, I'm not going to measure this, I'm just going to dab here. I would say it's probably the equivalent of maybe 1 tablespoon worth, because you don't want to have too much. You just need to coat this so that it gives you a little way to kind of cook it and crisp up. And then once your potatoes are all covered up, then you could add your seasoning, add your whatever, then you're going to be all set to go. Just like so. So next, I'm going to do some salt, some fine black pepper. Sometimes you could use coarse black pepper, but I find that if I want to have measurements, like be very specific with how much I'm putting in, I prefer to have the fine pepper. What's this? Granulated onion. Be generous with that, and the garlic. So if I was to make an estimate, I'd probably say I did around half a teaspoon each of all of these. But there is one more ingredient I'm going to use, paprika. Because then what this is going to do is kind of red it up a little bit here, give a nice coating. That I'm probably putting like the equivalent of a teaspoon on, so that I'm being a little bit more generous. Then I'm just going to mix it all up, get some brew. Such delicious stuff. And you just want to rotate this all so that it's all going to be consistently covered. Just like so. So then your fries are all set to go. You could put it in once it reaches 400 degrees, and then you could bake it for maybe, for this size, I would say 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes. Of course, you could always cook it a little bit longer just to be safe, because the only thing that's worse than overcooked potatoes is undercooked potatoes. They're crunchy and they're pretty nasty. I stand corrected, because rotten potatoes, once you cut them up, those are super rancid. And this is the rancid pad talking, so what does that say? So give us a second, then we'll put it in. So the toughest part of the meal today would have just been doing the fries, which is pretty straightforward to do. So then the next step would be to get my beef tartare all prepared. Now, I want to get a little bit of background done, like some research, so I can kind of explain myself intelligently to a point. But it's funny that no one seems to know exactly where beef tartare had originated from. Because I think if you were to go further back in history, there were some claims that had something to do with the Mongolian Empire, and maybe something that Genghis Khan and his armies had feasted on. And I think it involves something like horse meat. So not exactly something that I was expecting to read about, but considering it's a kind of a ghoulish idea, it does feel appropriate for Halloween. But everything I've read seems to say that tartare actually has originated from Eastern Europe and around that general part. But it was brought over to France, and then they kind of adopted it into their cuisine. So that's why you go to French restaurants and you're going to find tartare all around. And just something they took for themselves and kind of went with it. So that's as much as I can do. If any of you in the comment section are, I'm not talking to you comment section, I'm talking to viewers. If any of you viewers are reading this and you have an idea of where the tartare comes from, then leave in the comments and let's see if we can get a discussion going. Comment section exists for a reason. And I've looked it up. Everyone has their own variation of tartare, how they dress it up, but there's a few ingredients that are very similar to all of that, so we're gonna get things started right now. But obviously I'm gonna be doing it for one meal. And there's a good reason for that, and we'll get to it in a second. So, these are gonna be your basic ingredients when you're putting together your dressing for your tartare. Now, first thing to keep in mind is that, like I said, all the recipes that I found are for a much larger portion. They say like for 4 servings, 8 servings, but truth be told, whenever you make tartare, you gotta serve it right away to people, because then otherwise you can't even eat it. Otherwise you're gonna be risking whatever kind of infection or such. So I'm just doing this based on 1 serving for myself, which is gonna be, I would say, probably 100 grams worth, or the equivalent of a 1/4 pound of beef. 1/4 pounder with cheese. I can picture the cheese, but yeah. So first thing you're gonna need is some mustard, but it looks like it's what they call whole grain mustard or old style mustard. Now what that is this mustard, but it looks like what they've done is they included mustard seed in here. So it is pretty unique. I'm gonna put 1 tablespoon worth in my bowl, and then that'll be that. Afterwards, I'm gonna take some Dijon, and in this case, instead of 1 tablespoon, you're only gonna need like maybe 1 teaspoon worth. I wish I chose my camera angle better, but putting that in here, and then I'll slowly mix it up. Combine that together. So what this is gonna do, I guess, is gonna take the old style mustard and then blend it in with the Dijon mustard so that it gives a little bit more of a liquidy texture, but thicken it up at the same time. And then the next thing you're gonna do is use some olive oil again. Yep, once again, olive oil, one of my best ingredients. So I'm probably just gonna eyeball this as well. Okay, so that's like maybe less than a tablespoon, so that should be fine. Then I'm gonna mix this together until it kind of blends in and becomes this liquidy, gooey goodness. This could sound familiar to you because it is pretty similar to what I do with bavette steak, aka flap meat steak, aka flap sirloin steak. That's apparently a term that I learned recently, that flap meat steak is basically like a type of sirloin. And once again, if you want, I'll put a card in the top right corner because I did do a bavette recently on an episode to show it off once more. So one of my go-to meals I like to do when I'm grilling, but I don't want to think too hard. So this is going to be part of your sauce, but there's going to be a little bit more to put into here, and I'm going to show you in a second. So the one ingredient that's left to put into the dressing is going to be some capers. I've had some experience with this, but only with smoked salmon sandwiches. Otherwise, I think this is the very first jar I've ever bought for myself, so it's going to be a first time for everything. They're a bit sour, maybe salty, but they could be good at times. And that's like a typical ingredient that you use whenever you're making your tartare. But I will say too that if you don't have any capers at home or don't want to use it for whatever reason, you can always replace them with pickles. Because I saw that there's a recipe online that you could use cornichon, as they would say, and it'll still get the same job done. This would save, I don't think I'm going to need too much, so let's take a small spoonful worth. And I'm just going to mash it up and chop it and put it inside. I know they said that I could use like maybe 2 tablespoons worth, but that's for like 4 servings. I feel like half a tablespoon would be just enough, and this looks like it's perfect. So let's just move this over. Whoops, dropped a caper. Damn capers. Now let's see if I can actually do this well, because I'll admit I haven't actually chopped capers myself. But live and learn. And sometimes you'll have some success, other times you'll have some failures on camera. So you just want to chop it up so it's a bit fine, because you don't want to have these big balls of capers in your dressing. You just want to have these chopped so they can mix better. Easy to do that with what I'm doing right now. Now, this is done. So we're just going to throw this in here. There we go. The caper is over. And then you just have to season up a little bit more with basic stuff. A little bit of pepper. You don't have to use any particular measurement. You just season it to taste based on your liking. And then you just mix it up like so. I'm actually starting to realize that maybe the meat is going to be less in here than the mustard, so maybe I did get a little bit carried away. But what's the worst thing that can happen? I'll just use some of this and keep the rest aside for a later date. There we go. Actually, before I do that, here's how it looks on camera. So yeah, it's like a bit of traces of green, mostly mustard. It smells pretty nice too. So if you're a fan of mustard, like Dijon mustard, French mustard, not baseball mustard, as they would say up here, then you're probably gonna dig this. Okay, this thing is gonna be finishing off soon, which means when I get my refill, we're gonna be getting on to the beef. And at the same time, we'll be explaining the mystery and the secret to good tartare. And so we get to the ultimate question of this episode, besides the fact that why does this guy look like a raging psychopath? That is rhetorical, and there's never going to be an answer for that. Anyways, the important question is, how on earth can you eat raw beef? Like, how is it safe? How do you not get sick? Oh, there's a few tricks to keep in mind too. Like, obviously there's some meats that you're not going to be having raw whatsoever. So things like pork, which have a lot of like pathogens that they would say, other infections, parasites, that you always have to cook to a certain internal temperature to kill whatever's in there. Chicken, the flesh is so soft that any parasites that's going to be on the skin will penetrate it pretty easily. Fish, like for a poke bowl, when you're doing that, you can do it like with tuna or with salmon, but you always have to make sure you use sushi grade fish. And the way that works is you got to go in the store and look for that specifically, because what they do is that they flash freeze the fish to a really low temperature to kill whatever parasites and bacteria are on the interior of it. And it's a low temperature that your freezer in your kitchen is not going to be sufficient with. You need like an industrial kind of freezer. That's how you can eat it safe, because then once it's flash frozen, they're all killed and then it's safe for consumption. As for beef, well, the thing to remember with that is you always got to use a cut of steak. It should be like beef tenderloin, or as you say over here, filet mignon. You could even use inside round, top sirloin. I've heard top round, although I guess top round is very similar to top sirloin. Even bavette could be used for it, or even onglet / hanger steak. So you always have to make sure you use a cut of like a steak. And here's why. Because with beef, any bacteria that you have is going to be gathering on the top of the meat and on the bottom of the meat. Cow meat is so dense that nothing that's on the surface can penetrate through it. So that's how you can have it very safe. That's the reason that you can have steak medium rare, or you can have beef tartare. And it's a reason why you never use ground beef to do your tartare. Because what they're doing is they're just taking the meat as is, grinding it up, and then everything that's going to be on the surfaces, like all the bacteria, is going to combine together. So you're putting yourself at some risk. So for the purposes of my video, I'm using filet mignon. And I'm using, like I said, the equivalent of a quarter pound, or like 100 grams. For one person, that should be enough for a single serving. And it's going to be super tender too. What you would do, obviously, is that you'd have to trim off all the excess fat on here, and then you'll have some nice tender meat. But the key thing to remember too is that you're going to have to do a little bit of prep work. Your prep work involves make sure this thing is ready to eat. I've seen online that you can throw this in the freezer for about 20 minutes, so that's a way to kill all the surface germs on here and then make it a bit more firm, easier to cut. But there's also another trick you could do. Get yourself a pot of boiling water, put some salt in there, because salt is a very natural disinfectant. Throw this in for about 10 seconds, and then that's going to kill any bacteria that's going to be on there. And then after that, throw it into cold water, or I guess you could use ice water, for at least 10 seconds, because either way, you want your meat to be cold before you do it sliced up. So you slice into small strips, and then you cube it up, so then you can put it together with the dressing, make yourself a nice tartare. Now, this is gonna take a little bit of time, so yeah, that's how the secret. This is how you take care of tartare to make it edible to eat raw. It just takes boiled salt water and not any other methods at all. Yeah. Not Purell, and obviously not bleach. I mean, that is going to cause a whole bunch of other problems.
working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight, for my monster from his slab began to rise. Then suddenly, to my surprise,
He did the mash.
he did the monster mash.
The monster mash.
It was a graveyard
He
smash.
did the mash.
Caught on in a flash.
He did the mash.
He did the monster mash. From my laboratory in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast, the ghouls all came from their humble abodes to get a jolt from my electrode.
They did the mash.
They did the monster
The
mash.
monster mash.
It was a graveyard
They
smash.
did the mash.
It caught on in a flash.
They did the mash.
They did the monster mash. The zombies were having fun.
In a shoe.
The party had just begun.
In a shoe.
The guests included Wolfman, Dracula, and his son. The scene was rocking, all were digging the sounds. Igor on chains, backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group, the Crypt Kicker
They
Five.
played the mash.
They played the monster mash.
The monster mash.
It was a graveyard
They
smash.
played the mash.
It caught on in a flash.
They played the mash.
They played the monster mash. Out from his coffin, Drac's voice did ring. Seemed he was troubled by just one thing. Opened the lid and shook his fist and said, "Whatever happened to my Transylvania twist?"
It's now the mash.
It's now the monster
The
mash.
monster mash.
And it's a graveyard
It's now
smash.
the mash.
It's caught on in a flash.
It's now the mash.
It's now the monster mash. Now everything's cool, Drac's a part of the band, and my monster mash is the hit of the land. For you, the living, this mash was meant to. When you get to my door, tell them Boris sent you.
Then you can mash.
Then you can monster mash.
The monster mash.
As you can see, my beef is all chopped up. So the outer part looks like it's cooked, but then the inside, it looks like it's still pretty raw. So that means it should be good enough to go. I'm gonna add this into a larger bowl. Soon I'm gonna add the dressing there to kind of maximize it. Oh, actually, I realized I could also add a shallot in there. Shallot is a different type of onion. Just don't confuse them with green onions. When I was growing up, we always used to call green onions shallots, so I always got confused about that. But anyways, that's me kind of digressing a bit. Hang on, let me get this glove off here. And there's like another step you can do as well to kind of mix all together. You're gonna need to use one egg, or actually one egg yolk, because this is actually gonna help bind everything together and thicken it up. It's funny, because egg is another one of those things that you see people having raw, and you might think there's some health concerns, but the truth of the matter is, this thing is only dangerous if it's stored improperly. If you keep it under certain conditions, it's still fine. So you'll need one egg yolk. And this is going to take a little dexterity here, because what you got to do is separate it from the white, and then make sure. Oop. Well, there goes the full egg in here. Crap. Oh well. I'm sure it's still going to be tasty. It's another case of me making chicken salad out of chicken shit. First, let me wash my hands. And then once that's done, I'm just going to take some of my dressing, throw it in here, and kind of mix it all together. I'm only going to do half of it, given the size of my meal that I have. So then what you want to do is you want to take your meat, mix it all around, just like so, and then kind of bind it all together. Then in terms of presentation, well, this is looking a little bit more liquidy than I expected, but whatever. First time on anything, it's not a bad thing. So what I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna get myself a little bowl to kind of serve it on, and then be able to serve it over some bread. Oh yes, before we do that, let's take this out of the oven. Fries been ready for a while, and ooh, them fries, as Dave in the comments section would say, those look amazing. So I'm gonna get some broiling done on this. I'm gonna find a way to prep this up so that it looks presentable to me, and then we'll soon be having our meal. Oh yeah, you're probably wondering what I'm drinking right now. Easy. Something from Fifth Baron called the Cabaret. It's a New England Pale Ale, not to be confused with a New England India Pale Ale. India Pale Ale will have a little bit more hops. Pale ales are a bit more caramel. So you got to keep that in mind whenever you look for the beers. I'll admit, I got that because I like the look of it, the haunted house, the forest, the black and white imagery. It just felt perfect for a day like today. Now, let's go get this toasted. Not this toasted, because what I'm going to do next is get some bread, slice it up, throw it in the oven so it's going to be toasted, and then I'll eat it the traditional way.
Cigarettes and erotic funeral for which she's dressed. Her perfume smells like burning leaves.
Well, I'm honestly going to say it's not so bad for a very first attempt at tartare. As you could see that it kind of became liquidy because I included the egg white in it, along with the egg yolk. Usually I'm supposed to use the egg yolk, but I've seen actually other recipes where they put the egg yolk on top of it as well when they mix it up, so there's no right way, wrong way of doing it. It's all a matter of preference. And these little pieces of baguette turned out amazing. So what you would do is you would scoop up this onto these little pieces of baguette. But you can also get those crostinis, which are like already pre-toasted baguette. You could get naan bread, you could use pita, even potato chips. Like, I've seen so many variations of how you could put that up. But we are gonna have to do a taste test to find out how this turned out. So, this is gonna be my very first tartare from scratch, at home, and on camera. Let's give it a shot. Ah, my fry. You know what? This thing is glorious. It's great. Turned out a little bit more liquidy than I expected, but it's amazing. Because of how little room I have on the plate here, I'm not going to be able to put a salad like I was hoping to do. Because my original intention was trying to recreate one of my favorite servings of tartare before, which was at Beaufort Bistro along Plaza Saint-Hubert. And that's because it's one of the only places I've been to where instead of the choice of tartare with fries or salad, they give you both. So for the price you pay there, it's amazing, and you get all that at once. I should probably see what this fry is like too. Looks, smells, and tastes glorious. So not bad. Raw cow, done for the first time at home. It was a success, all things considered, and it's perfect for make a Halloween episode over here while I'm enjoying my last brew. So everyone, I'm going to thank you for watching this ghoulish edition of the Wandering Ukie Cheese Cafe. So if you like what you see, once again, just be sure to hit that subscribe button below. Give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying everything I've done tonight. And if you have an idea for a future episode, leave in the comment section. I'll see what I could do. Till then, take care. Happy Halloween. Stay alert, stay safe, stay healthy. I'm going to work up this cold while I'm doing this. Oh, not work up the cold. Like, I'll try to get rid of the cough while I'm enjoying this. I need to feel a little bit more classy for this. And I think I know what I gotta get.